What's up, guys? In today's video, I want to help you learn to manage your money well so you can feel strong, confident, and in control of your financial life. Constantly feeling stressed out financially completely sucks, so let's put an end to that today. Step number one is going to be to write out your goals. You want to know, what are you even going to do if you do have some extra cash, or if your finances were in a better place? How would that make a difference in your life? So I would sit down and really ask myself, okay, if I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck, here's how my life would change. If I didn't have to put this much money towards debt every month, here's what I would do with it instead. And really envision your future self in a better place financially so you can cling to these moments when times get hard and when it's hard to stick to this plan you create. Step number two is going to be to write out your details. What does your financial picture even look like? Write out what you're working with, meaning how much income you have, what your expenses are. You want to list all of the debts that you have, and next to them, every single associated interest rate with that debt. You want to have a very clear picture of what it is that you're working with. So that brings us to step number three, which is to assess what you're working with. So after you've written everything down and you kind of have a good idea of what your financial picture looks like, then you want to revisit it and ask yourself how you feel about where your money is going. So if you see you're spending a lot of money in one area, but you're not really getting a lot of value from that, that may be a good place where you can say, you know what, if I wasn't spending so much money here, then I could apply that money towards this area and feel like I'm getting a lot more bang for my buck. Me, for example, I really didn't value having a super nice car, but I did value travel. So instead of buying and upgrading a car back when I couldn't really afford to do both, I drove an Isuzu Rodeo 1999 for about 10 years so that I could take some trips from time to time. So as you're reviewing all of your bills and everything that you have, you want to go line by line and ask yourself with each one, does this actually add value to my life in proportion to the amount of money that I'm spending on it? So if you're spending money on cable TV, which probably not many of us are, but if you are, maybe divide that by 30 and say, do I get this dollar amount of value every day from having this service? Or if it's Netflix, I mean, let's be honest, we probably aren't going to cut that out of our budget, but just every single thing you want to go through and ask yourself, am I getting the dollar value that I'm paying for this? And if you look at this and say, why am I spending so much here? Because if I didn't spend it here, I can spend it in another area and get much more value from that. That's the kind of thoughts I want you to start thinking about when you're reviewing what you're working with. Let's say after you start assessing what you're working with, you really don't have enough money at the end of the month to make significant changes, then you're gonna have to revisit those items and say, where can I make some cuts in my expenses? This is really important because if you're at the point where you're spending everything that you make, making more money really isn't going to fix that problem, because if you're in that habit of spending everything you make, regardless of how much you make, you will find a way to spend it. And we see that all the time. And I don't want to repeat myself too much with the cutting cost thing, but if you need help with that, take a look at this video because I do go through some good ways to reduce your spending. And I will say, I know it's hard to let go of things we're used to spending money on, whether it's eating out, getting nice clothes. It can be really difficult to let some of these things go, but remind yourself that these changes are temporary. You're temporarily pausing this lifestyle that you've gotten yourself into that you can't really afford, and you could resume it once you get yourself into a better situation. Then you can start adding things back into your life and you'll actually feel good about it. It won't come with some guilt because you know you're being responsible this time around. Increasing your income obviously will help with meeting your financial goals, but this is more of a long-term strategy. So I really recommend doing what you can to increase your income because that will just expand the opportunities that you have. It'll expand your ability to spend more in areas that you love in your life, and of course, knock out your debts and all of that quicker. But it takes longer to increase your income than it does to decrease your expenses. That being said, you still want to look ahead and say, okay, if I can increase my credentials that I have, increase the value that I bring to my employer so that I can justify asking for a raise or seeking out a new job that will pay me more. And you should know what jobs will pay you more, and you could easily find this out just by Googling like six-figure jobs or jobs that pay 80K or whatever income amount that you think you would like to reach. Figure out what in your industry pays that, because there is good paying jobs in all different industries. We just have to do the homework to find out where those jobs are and what we need to do to gain the skill set to qualify for those jobs. And of course, right now, literally in this moment of time, it's not the best hiring situations out there. Like I said before, it is more of a long-term strategy. So it's not necessarily that you're going to go out and get a great job tomorrow, but if you do the work of increasing your skill set, so maybe in a year or 2 years from now, you will be able to qualify for a job that does pay you much more. Then you'll really be able to knock out some of your debts or hit some of your financial goals. And you'll be set up so much more for success if you've gotten yourself into a habit of spending a lot less than you make and living within your means. Then when your income increases, you can really benefit from that because you're used to living on this, then you start making this. Now you have so much more to work with. And this is exactly what I did in my life. I learned to live pretty cheap over time as I was knocking down my debt and getting to a good place financially. I was also increasing my qualifications so that I could eventually qualify for a job that paid me 6 figures. Then I was able to just tuck away a bunch of that money because I was used to living so minimally. Step number 4 brings us to making a plan. Take this information that you've reviewed and gone through and then create a new plan. This is how you're going to start to really feel like you're getting your finances in order, because you're going to sit down and say, okay, instead of spending $500 a month eating out, I'm going to start spending $300 and I'm going to take that $200 and start an actual savings account, or I'm going to start investing or paying down my debt. Whatever it is that you're working on, you're going to have to shuffle some things around and reallocate them to get the most value out of the dollars that you're working with. After you've created your plan, step number 5 brings us to making a schedule to follow up on your plan. I would do this once a week, say every single Sunday. You want to sit down and review the week prior. See how you did with your plan. Were you able to stick to the things that you said you were going to stick to, or were you really way off? And if so, then you kind of want to adjust using that information and say, you know what, okay, maybe I was unrealistic with what I wanted to spend on groceries. Let me tweak that for next week because I really wasn't sure what I actually needed to be spending to feel satisfied. So every week you're gonna wanna do this so that you can make sure you're hitting those targets you set, you're tucking money away for savings, or you're paying off your debts, or you're putting money away for vacation. All of those things, you wanna make sure on a weekly basis that you're following through with the work that you put in assessing your whole situation, making your goals, and all of that. So if you don't follow through weekly, this is gonna be something that just falls through the cracks and you're gonna forget about it. And then a year from now, you're gonna once again be in the same position and ask yourself, like, where the heck is my money going? Why don't I feel strong financially? Doing this on a weekly basis until you get to the point where you're really tuned in to where your money is going and you've got some extra cash, you're not living paycheck to paycheck. And then once you get to that point, then maybe you assess every month, or maybe every 2 months, and eventually every 6 months and every year. So it's not gonna be something that you have to be doing every day or every week forever. It's a temporary thing as you're trying to really get your finances to a good place. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. I'd love to be a resource for you. Give this video a like if it helped you out. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. I would really, really appreciate that. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye.